In this video, I'm going to share with you my personal opinion on religion. But before I do that, guys, make sure if you're new to this channel to hit the subscribe button. It takes you 2 seconds at the most, okay? So please make sure to hit it, just because, hey, I'm just saying, there's a lot of cool shit on this channel. If you're already subscribed, guys, for you guys who are already watching, regular viewers, make sure beside the subscribe button where it says you already subscribed, to hit the notification bell. That way, anytime this ranting ass motherfucker uploads something, you can be notified. And you can see it and you can come here and watch me rant about something, okay? So, thank you for doing that, guys. It really takes you 2 seconds, so just do it now, okay? I'm gonna pause for 2 seconds. Hopefully you've done it. Okay, so now, religion. What do I think of religion? Is religion bullshit? There is this argument that's going around these days that look at all what religion has caused, look at all the wars that were started in the name of religion, the Crusades, look at these radical Muslims, look at all this radical stuff, look at all these wars that have been waged in the name of God, in the name of religion over history, you know? So, clearly religion is bullshit, it should be obsolete. Fuck it, let's just throw it under a bus and pretend like this was like a dark period in humanity that should never exist again, and just say no to religion, and you know, this that argument right now. It's very hot. It's a very hot topic. It's a very hot trend to follow that thought process. And I'm here to discuss my opinion on what I think of this thought process. So lately, I've been enrolled in religious studies in university, you know. So for some of you guys who follow me regularly, I moved to Ottawa, right? So I'm gonna be here just for a year. So I thought, hey, let me enroll in something that I'm really interested in, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm taking 5 classes right now. One is philosophy, so that's not religious studies, but very, very interesting nevertheless. I'm taking a course on Buddhism, course on Hinduism, course on Eastern religions, so that's an overview of Jainism, Sikhism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and then what about Abrahamic religions? Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm doing it because I just want to have fun. And so I'm learning quite a bit. When I address religion in this video, it's going to be specifically about what we commonly think of as religion, because really, if you take up what an actual religion is, soccer is a religion, and I mean, people killed each other over it, still kill each other over it. So how is that any different from radical Muslims fighting it out with radical Christians, right? It's the same thing. So in this specific video, I'm addressing what we commonly as a society, I guess, think of as religion, which is, you know, the main Abrahamic religions: Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and Hinduism, Buddhism, and all Sikhism, obviously, all basically what we commonly refer to as religion nowadays, right? But again, if you actually look at what a religion is, there's a lot of things that we don't think of as religion that are in actuality religion. So, mostly, I guess, we're concerned with the belief in external power, something of that sort. So, back to the argument, right? Like, look at all this violence that has been waged in the name of God, and, you know, this probably is a terrible idea to follow religion. So, what do you think about that? Well, let's examine the phenomena of religion, okay? Without placing a judgment, without saying this is good, this is bad, we should do this, we shouldn't do that. The very fact that this phenomena keeps arising over and over and over, charismatic person comes in and gathers support, and then people basically develop a belief system around it, and it becomes a religion. You have to ask yourself, why does this keep happening over and over and over? You know, why does it keep happening? Without saying this is bad, without saying this is good. Well, there is something there. Clearly, there is something attractive. There is something about it that's going on that perhaps speaks to us, human beings, on a deeper level. And I can tell you what that thing is. In simple terms, all religions are based on the mystical experience. Simple as that. All religions, all the major ones anyway, are based on mystical experience. And the mystical experience is the most powerful experience a human being can undergo. It is, I mean, really, like, the mystical experience. Take what we think of as the best human experiences, like sex and eating up just a delicious meal, right? Think of all of these things, and they are a drop in the bucket compared to the mystical experience. This is the most powerful, most potent experience that a human being can undergo. And because people keep having these mystical experiences over and over and over and over, because this is we're spiritual beings having human experience. Because we keep having these mystical experiences over and over, we keep developing religions, and they gain massive followerships, and they gain all this popularity because this mystical experience speaks to us at a deeper level. So without saying this is good or this is bad, let's acknowledge the phenomena of religion as something to be examined, and something, you know, that arouses the interest of why does this happen? What is the motivation behind religion? What is the motivation? Why would, like, for example, you know, why would these desert people follow this man called Muhammad? Why would they follow him? You know, like, in mass numbers. Like, why? You know, there has to be something that is attracting them. Why is it that, you know, people wanted to be buried, they wanted the ashes of their bodies to be buried near the ashes of the Buddha? Like, why? What is going on here? Did these guys, the Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, all these, you know, high conscious beings, did they perhaps channel some kind of energy that was too out of this world, too powerful, too magnificent, that the people around them at the time were so taken by this energy and actually ended up developing systems around it? We have to examine this. We have to ask ourselves, what is the motivation behind religion? And in all cases, you will see that the mystical experience is at the core of the development of religion. Now, the mystical, here, let's talk about the mystical experience. What is the mystical experience? The mystical experience is ineffable. The mystical experience is, this is where words fail and they become poor ways of describing. I mean, there are some people out there that have some way with words to describe the mystical experience, but even they admittedly say that this is not even like 1% of what the mystical experience is. The mystical experience is an experience where you have union with all and a sense of compassion and a sense of overwhelming love, like a big giant wave that you're kind of in the middle of it, and you're just like, oh, okay, I'm fucked here, like I'm just gonna let the wave take over me, you know? Because what are you gonna do? You're gonna like stop the wave, and you just feel this wave of mind-blowing, because your mind is blown at the moment, and that's why you can't really put it into words. Mind blown at the moment. And so you experience this bliss, this cosmic consciousness, this oneness, and in those states you can, like the Buddha for example, you can go back and look at all your previous lifetimes and you can really see how it is. You can really go back even to the beginning of creation and you can just see how this all is, right? So these experiences, these mystical experiences, they represent our most evolved being. They represent, if this is a game, if we're looking at life as a game, the mystical experience is like a glimpse into the higher levels of the game. And there are various there are various levels of the mystical experience, right? But they represent higher levels in the game. And more they show you versions of yourself that are more realized, that are higher, you see? So that's really at the base of all religions. It's the mystical experience. Like Hinduism, for example. I mean, I'm still learning about it, so forgive me because I know very little, and I admit it. It was largely developed by a bunch of crazy wackos. When I say crazy wackos, I'm saying crazy wackos in like a good way, who like spent years in meditation and came up with all these things and came up with all this wisdom, right? So it was basically written, all the books in it were written by people who were experiencing the mystical experience, were undergoing this mystical experience regularly, and in fact they dedicated their lives for it. In the same way, if you follow Islam and the development of Islam, Muhammad was absolutely dedicated to meditation. Like he used to go into Ghar Hira, which is like his place of meditation, and he used to spend weeks there, months sometimes, just meditation, just in silence. That's it, right? I mean, these guys that came up with this wisdom that you see in religion, they are people who dedicated their life for the mystical experience. In other words, they dedicated their lives for it. And as a result, they were able to channel this incredible energy. And as a result, they were able to gain lots of followers because they've touched a place that is within all of us. And hence the beginning of religions. Now, maybe if you've been watching this video up until now, you're probably thinking I'm speaking favorably in religion here, right? Like I am in a way promoting it. I'm not. I'm just showing you why religions exist in the first place. Because these mystical experiences, and if you want to have a mystical experience yourself, I invite you, considering proper setting, forget all religions. Just grab some mushrooms, make sure you're in a good state of mind, watch my other videos and other people, do your research, okay, on how to prepare for a mushroom trip. Sit down by yourself in a silent room, take these mushrooms and see what happens. I'm not guaranteeing you're gonna have a mystical experience, but if you've been doing your preparation properly, you just might have one. Yeah, once you have this mystical experience, you will begin to understand why religions exist. Because it is, like I said, take the best sex session you've ever had. That's nothing compared to the mystical experience, okay? That's how powerful these experiences can be, okay? They're literally mind-blowing. Because your mind is blown, you don't know how to explain this in words. Because the mind works by language and by words. So, why is it then that such a beautiful thing has caused such immense suffering? You know, I mean, really, like, let's be honest here. Look at the way many religions spread. They spread by the sword, and like, it's hard to argue against that, right? Like, I mean, look at Christianity in many parts of the world. It spread because a bunch of crazy psycho wackos took up their sword and they wanted to spread it with violence. And you know what? It worked to a certain extent. Like, you know, it worked. Same thing with Islam. Same thing with pretty much every religion. There is a dark side to every religion. So many wars were waged in the name of God, in the name of a religion, and understandably so. Many people are now becoming more and more suspicious of religion because of this history of the many wars that have been waged in the name of God, in the name of religion. Well, here's the problem, as I see it. So these beings, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, Krishna, all these, you know, beings that are sort of the face and the main figure in different religions, they clearly were beings that were vibrating at a higher consciousness. And because they were vibrating at a higher consciousness, they were able to channel some of this powerful, potent wisdom that is found in every religious text. And they all pretty much shared like the same wisdom, really, at the core of it. The problem is the mass consciousness of humanity, and especially in the last few thousand years, especially, has been terribly low. Terribly low. I mean, it is rising now. You know, the consciousness of the humanity is rising now. But for the last few thousand years, and especially like the last 2,000 years, the mass consciousness has been terribly low. So you had these higher consciousness beings coming in, channeling this powerful wisdom, channeled to most of humanity whose consciousness is not ready to receive these teachings. This is like teaching someone who's in grade 1, teaching them stuff in in university level. This is like taking university level education, going to grade 1, teaching the grade 1 how to fucking basically become a PhD or how to do your master's. This is like literally master's education, trying to teach master's education or PhD education to grade 1. There's gonna be a lot of miscommunication and a lot of misinterpretation, and that's exactly what happened. We had these guys that were teaching us PhD level wisdom and knowledge and information, but all of us, most of us as humanity are like in grade 1, not even kindergarten, and here we are trying to grasp this knowledge, this wisdom, this truth, these divine truths. Clearly there's going to be an error there. There has to be an error. There just has to be. And that's what that's what happened basically. That's the error. So then these kindergarten kids took this PhD level knowledge and tried to spread it and try to develop belief systems around it and try to have institutions around it. They institutionalized it. They made it like, you know, a governing body, and they completely misinterpreted the core teachings of these prophets, let's call them, okay? You know, they're all prophets. They completely misinterpreted it and made a mess out of it. You know, they made it into this thing that is intellectual, right? Like, for example, I'll give you guys a personal example. Like, I grew up as a Muslim, right? And you know, some of the stuff that I like read sometimes now in the Quran, and some of the stuff that I hear people saying, like in their daily language, it blows my mind. I'm like, whoa, this is powerful, powerful, divine truth. Like, for example, there's like a common saying, you know, in the Muslim world, like a common thing you say, Insha'Allah, which means God willing. And everybody says it. Everybody says that, Insha'Allah, God willing. You know, like if you say, for example, if let's say I say I'm gonna make $1 million, and then you say Insha'Allah, because you say God willing, right? Well, that's powerful, and the fact that everybody says it like almost every day, powerful. But people don't even know what they're saying, because if they really like said it with faith, like they wouldn't go back and they wouldn't be like worried about whatever it is that they're saying. You know, in fact, like there was like a common running joke between me and my siblings that every time our parents, my dad or my mom said Insha'Allah, it means it's never going to happen. You know, because we just throw this like it's like it's a list on a grocery list or something. It's an item on a grocery list. We just say these things without even questioning what they mean, and really feeling the powerful effects of it, and really eating up the wisdom and letting it digest and letting it sit. So in many ways, religion for most humanity has become something of the mind, something of the intellect, and not something that they experience for themselves. So then we have people relying on the mullahs, the sheikhs, the priests, the gurus telling them what to do, because they themselves have never really had a powerful mystical experience. So they have to trust someone else who's had a mystical experience, and we don't know if they did. And take their wisdom and not even really know what it means and not even apply it to our own lives because we haven't had this mystical experience ourselves. So yes, we hear the mullahs and the priests telling us, hey, you should trust in God. And we hear it, you know, and we say, oh, you know, you go to Sunday, do your church worship, or you go to Jum'ah, Friday prayer in the mosque, and you hear these guys saying these powerful wisdom, and then you're like, oh yeah. And then you leave the mosque, you leave the church, and you're back to your old habits of negative thinking and worrying. It's like, didn't they just tell you to believe in God, to trust in God? But because you haven't had the mystical experience yourself, you haven't had this experience of God, of course you're not going to apply what you heard. It's just words at this point. Words are secondary. Experience is primary. But what religion has become, these institutionalized religions, what they've become essentially is they give you the words, the secondary, they're giving you the menu. That's what it is. Words are the menu. The mystical experience is the food. But nobody is eating the food. Everybody is taking the menu, is reading the menu. And if you're just reading the menu without eating the food, then you're gonna be hungry. So people are spiritually hungry all over the world. Even in countries that believe, even in India, even in India, right? A lot of people in India, like if you look into Hinduism, Hinduism is, my God, like it really is a powerful system. You know, the whole bit. Even in India, man, there's a lot of people there that are hungry and starving for spiritual enlightenment and a higher way of being. Same thing in the Middle East. I grew up in the Middle East, right? We wouldn't have all this violence and all these things in the Middle East if people were actually more spiritually advanced and actually had an experience of God. It's really like that. So everybody's starving for this. Everybody's just reading the menu, and that's what religion has become. And yes, if you're just reading the menu and you're not eating the food, you're gonna misinterpret the fuck out of the menu. Because even the menu that's given to you, it's given to you in old terms. You know, like 1400 years ago. I read the Arabic in the Quran and I like maybe understand 20% of it. You know? So that is the problem, I think. That's what's gone wrong with religion. So I think what my personal opinion is you've got to teach everybody what they need to learn at whatever level they're at. So if most of humanity is in kindergarten level, we've got to teach them, we've got to give them curriculum that takes them from kindergarten to grade 1, from grade 1 to grade 2, from grade 2 to grade 3, and on and on and on it goes. And sometimes these divine truths that are, you know, PhD level, yeah, they can completely go over your head if you're not prepared to level up and learn bit by bit, so what I think ultimately is the future moving forward for religion is, I don't think religion will become completely obsolete, although it might. I think for us to hopefully, because like you try and go to the Middle East, for example, and try and make it secular, for example. So say, you know what, let's not mix politics and religion. It's going to be very hard to do that. People still need, it's going to be too much of a shock to suddenly take religion out of the picture. So my solution is not to bash religion, because the problem is many people will take it personally. Like for example, like my relatives, you know, if I say something bad about Islam, like they will take it personally. You know, they will take it personally because it becomes part of your ego, part of your belief system, right? So this is the tricky thing about bashing religion. You have to be aware, because you're gonna be bashing people, because people identify so much with the religion. Like if I bash Islam, for example, like my dad's not gonna like it because he's identified with it personally, right? So I don't think there is any need to bash religion here, because if we can transcend the menu and start feeding people, actually giving them food, then religion won't be so bad. So I preach the mystical experience. How do we get people to have this mystical experience. Because once you have the mystical experience, it becomes harder and harder for you to want to kill somebody else and want to harm somebody else, because it's just the love that you feel is overwhelming. It's too much, and the bliss and the oneness. So what I see the future in religion is, for example, Islam. I know I'm talking a lot about it just because that's where I grew up, right? So I can relate to it the most. I think Sufism could potentially transcend the dark side of Islam. Really, because Sufism is all about the mystical experience. In fact, it is sometimes described as too spiritual, which in certain cases it can be, because they completely let go of the material and completely dedicate themselves to the spiritual. But I think more and more of that is needed, because ultimately we want peace and happiness and joy in the world, you see? And most people in the world, if you bash and insult a religion, they're gonna take it personally, and we don't want that, because we love everybody. Everybody is you, and everybody is a conscious being, you know, and everybody is a soul. And so the best thing is bring mysticism back, really. Now I think that's what it is, because mysticism, it says you've got to experience God for yourself. You know, that's what it is. That's what mysticism is. It experience God for yourself. And if everybody was experiencing God for themselves more and more and more and more and more, then these individuals, this is how we're going to raise the consciousness of the planet. That's going to happen by empowering individuals. Yeach individual has to raise their consciousness on their own. There's a beautiful saying, I don't know who by it is, but I'm going to just paraphrase it. Yesterday I was clever, I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, and I just want to change myself. And if we can get people more and more to experience the mystical experience, and every religion has that factor in it. That's what's so beautiful. In Christianity, I believe it's Gnosticism. Sorry if I'm pronouncing it, but they are much more mystical, and they honor more and more the mystical experience. I know there are other schools in Christianity that do the same thing. In Islam, I know Sufism is like the main mystical school, and unfortunately by many mainstream Muslims it is completely looked at as like, in many cases, what's the word here, heretics. And unfortunately by some mainstream schools, many mainstream schools in Islam, they look at Sufis as heretics and completely out of their mind. And it's true, they are out of their mind. They're more into their heart, they're more into their soul. And if you look into Rumi's poetry, it's really, really beautiful. It's all about love and unity and oneness. You know, Hinduism is full of mysticism, so is Buddhism. So I think, guys, you know, that my opinion after this long ass rant is religion has been completely misused because of the disparity of levels of consciousness, because most of humanity is still in the kindergarten, and then all these PhD level professors, prophets came and, you know, shared this knowledge, but it was completely misinterpreted along the way, and as a result it caused massive suffering, you know, that in the name of it. But just to remind you, two of the worst wars that ever happened were World War I and World War II, most recent wars. And they weren't waged in the name of religion. They were waged in the name of nationalism, mostly. Nationalism. Which shows you the problem isn't religion. The problem is dogma. The problem is ideology. The problem is when something becomes your ideology and you say my way or the highway. That's when it becomes a problem. So really, like World War I, World War II, the most recent wars in human history weren't even waged in the name of religion. They were waged in the name of nationalism. My country is better than yours. You see where the real problem is then. The real problem is not religion. The real problem is dogma. The real problem is consciousness. There needs to be an increased level of consciousness on a personal level, on an individual level, an increased level of awareness. And that's where the mystical experience comes in handy. So wherever we can encourage the mystical experience, encourage people to go out and experience God for themselves. This is why I like talking about psychedelics here, because this was my way of accessing the mystical experience, still is my way of accessing the mystical experience, is through the psychedelic experience, and more lately I've been trying to develop a solid meditative practice. But however you get there, as long as you do it yourself, as long as you feel God for yourself, as long as you experience this yourself, then that's all that matters. So I'm very optimistic about the history of humanity moving forward. I think we are in a day and age where the consciousness is rising, and I think we will transcend the dark side of religion and come to embrace the positive side of it, which will allow us to understand the deep wisdoms and the deep truths that were channeled to us by these high consciousness beings, by these self-realized beings that came to earth, shared this beautiful, wonderful wisdom with us, and we'll all get there. You know, we're all walking each other home, really. That's what it is. So that's it, guys. Make sure to check out my free book, 5 Powerful Habits to Dominate Life in All Areas. You can just go to 5powerfulhabits.com, or just find the link for it in the description, in the comments as well. 5powerfulhabits.com. You'll see it in the description. It's for free, 19 pages. Sit down and, you know, finish it in like probably what, half an hour? It's 19 very light pages, right? But they're powerful. That's why I called it 5 Powerful Habits. So download it. Other than that, guys, I love you. I love every single one of you. And God bless you all, whatever religion or non-religion or whatever it is that you believe in or don't believe in. Because I know the truth at the end of the day, and I know that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. And however we can come up with this understanding, whichever religion you want to take, whichever route, whichever, all power to you. As long as we're all on the same page, compassion, unity, love, then that's really what all religion is based off. The mystical experience religion is based off. The original, the OG religion is love. So I love every single one of you guys, but don't forget to subscribe or you're gonna sleep with the fishes.